Hey guys, it's been a while. This is Hooch, the Black Sheep of Christ. Just coming back with an update on life as a Christian without a church. Perhaps in many ways, a Christian without the church. However you want to look at it. It's been about 9 months or so since I released the Bully Pulpit series, in which I proceeded to give my side, my testimony of what I experienced in what I would call an unjustified excommunication from Oak Ridge Community Church. Giving an update because time has passed, and as time has passed, I think I've been able to understand things a little bit more clearly, whether it be the details of my situation or whether it be in understanding how to process everything that I've gone through, what lessons God has taught me through the struggles and the pain, the trial that was providentially given to me. Life has been busy generally, much change in my personal life in terms of where I'm living. I moved out of Wisconsin back to Minnesota. What I'm doing as a family man, what I'm doing as a husband, as a father, as an uncle, as a brother, as a son. Many different significant changes. It's been a busy season, and that is not a negative thing at all. That is a good thing. And so one of the things that I wanted to do with my excommunication, my wife and I's excommunication, I wanted to draw some lessons from it, and I also wanted to give it enough time to be able to more, I guess, wisely and patiently kind of draw lessons, not to be too rash or too quick, but to allow time to go and allow time to heal in many ways. Me, naturally, as a person, I'm an individual that wants answers now. If there's an issue, I want to resolve it now. And in real life, that is me. And sometimes that can happen. But for many times, depending on who I'm working with, who I'm dealing with, the other person or the other people may not feel the same. And so time is pretty important. Time is an important factor, because either with time, hearts are going to be softened or hearts are going to be hardened. And in my experience, which transitions me to my experience, really, I think hearts have been hardened. In many ways, I've received information, messages, communication that really kind of just confirm that what I saw in these elders and what I experienced was not a figment of my imagination. All my concerns were true, and what I experienced was true. Those people have come, and communication has been had, and with time comes clarity. And as I've processed, even at times, over and over and over again, the many events that led up to the excommunication and led up to the present time, I've realized a lot of things. And one of the things I realized was that people aren't exactly what they seem. I think I've probably mentioned this to one degree or another in other videos, but that is one big lesson that God has taught me, is that our hearts, at the end of the day, are very selfish. And we don't really know where our hearts are at until we are challenged to a great degree. Until we're challenged with possible life-changing decisions. did not know where my faith truly was until I was challenged with this hurt that I experienced, with the sin, being sinned against, with being kicked out of the church unjustly, with being without a church, without the people of God for the most part. I questioned where my faith was, because I honestly, when you are in my shoes, when you're in the position of being churchless, it really makes you question, does God really have a people? And of course, at the end of the day, I believe God's word is true. I believe that he saves. I believe he has a people. Do I know who those people are at this point in my life? No. If I'm being honest, generally not. And that's what I continue to work through. But I believe that God has a church for me, a local church, and he has the church to support me. In many ways, what I've felt, what I've experienced is completely changed. Because I went from having, let's just say, 100 Christian friends to a handful. And in a moment that happened, in a moment I found out who really was a brother and who wasn't. Brothers are made for adversity. And that's how I would define a true brother is, are they made for adversity? Is their love so great, so true, that they will persevere with me and bear with me, no matter how frustrating the situation may be, or how frustrating I might be? Because the reality is that we all don't see eye to eye on everything. And the challenge of being so unique individually is getting along with each other. If we are to be together as Christians, and we are to bear with each other and be patient with each other, and obviously that's preached from the pulpit often, but is that lived out? In my experience, not really. And so I've learned through my trials that this reality is hard. It's a hard-hitting reality. In many ways, I felt like I've lived a lie in my church experience, which spans 2 churches and 15 years of church life. And so that was a hard truth. And that truth, I knew at the end of the day, was either going to make me or break me. It was either going to put me down and keep me down, or it was either going to put me down and I would get up, and I would get up stronger than ever before. And if I'm being honest, I'm still in the process of getting up. These hard-hitting facts and reality, you just don't recover from quickly. So even after a couple years post-excommunication, I'm for sure on the mend. I'm mending. I'm getting stronger. But there are other challenges in life that come, and that's what I'm working through right now. And so how does this apply to my relationships with others? Well, one thing is, because we are creatures of comfort, at the end of the day, we have to figure out whether we want to suffer for what we believe and what we see, or for others or not. I was willing to suffer for righteously leaving the church. And I knew what could have happened, and I counted the cost, and I made the decision I did. I knew that when I confronted the elders, it would either make or break my relationship with them. I counted the cost, and I thought it was worthwhile. And I made the decision, knowing that the worst thing could happen, knowing that there was that possibility. Unfortunately for me, it did happen according to my worst fears. Why? I think a great part of why was because out of selfishness and pride, out of comfort. I think we all as individuals, when we're faced with truth, have 2 choices: either to acknowledge it and make the right logical choice, or to ignore it and deny it. And we do that out of comfort. many people wanted to stick with me even though they knew I was wrong? A handful, if that. Many in the church at Oak Ridge knew that what was done and what was being done to me was wrong. But were they willing to stand up and say so? Yes. They would say so in private. They would say so to one another. They would say so to me and my wife. But there was no way they were going to stand up and say it to the elders. There was no way they were going to stand up and say it to each other. And that is ultimately, in my opinion, because you know that when you stand up and you say something and you go against the grain, you are at risk for really losing the comfort that you have. The comfort of a seemingly thriving church, growing church, a seemingly loving church, all that stuff. You view your elders as very godly and holy men. And you don't want that picture to change. You don't want to think differently. You want your life to be exactly how you want it to be. And therefore, at the end of the day, each and every person at church had to count the cost of, do I stand with this guy who's being unrighteously excommunicated, or do I stand up? And do I call it out and risk my place in the church and risk the comfort of having a church? And many people have come to me and in one way or shape or form communicated that I was wrong. But how many of those people actually did anything about it? How many of those people left the church because wrong was committed? Not many. A handful. Through this ordeal, I've lost many friends. And even in recent months, some of the closest friends I've lost. And even this close friend, he had to figure out where he stood. Yes, Hoochie was wrong. Yes, it was wrong for them to do so. But do I want to confront this issue head on with others or not? And ultimately, there's a cost with every decision we make. And if we're not willing to do so, it's because if we're not willing to make right decisions, if we're not willing to stand up for truth and righteousness, we're simply making a decision out of selfishness because we fear something. We either fear loss, we fear hurt, or we fear others, or we fear being ostracized. Whatever, we have fear that controls us, and we are not free. We are enslaved by our fear. And so one conclusion that I've had to draw was, yeah, people have had to make decisions. And they've done so, many of them, not out of ignorance, but out of fear and selfishness. And I can't blame them. I really can't. Because I know myself that I'm selfish, and I am prideful, and I fear. But the Lord continues to work. I will acknowledge those things. And the question is anyone else in that situation at church, at Oak Ridge, are they willing to acknowledge it, that they have fear? Which leads me to my next point, which is something that I've learned over the years, but that I've learned more and more and more and more. And that is, you can't change anyone's heart, and you can't change anyone's mind. That no matter what kind of evidence you put out there that rightly proves one fact or another, it doesn't matter to people, because they're going to make the decision they need to make. They're going to believe what they want to believe in order to keep their conscience as clear as possible and to be as comfortable as possible. And so even if the pastor's lying, they're going to justify it. And if they can't justify it, even with factual evidence, they will find some way, shape, or form to explain the lie in their own minds, so that they can, with a good conscience, be before this pastor, before this eldership. And they will even continue to defend the people who are in the wrong. And in my case, that is the eldership. And so, I'm a guy who naturally embraces confrontation, and that even to a fault. And I say that to say that we're not reconciled, me and the eldership, and me and the church, me and the brethren. We're not reconciled, we who are involved in this situation, not because I'm scared of confrontation, but simply because nobody else wants reconciliation. In fact, I would probably go as far to say that they fear confrontation. They fear confrontation because they know which side the truth is on. And so the story is long drawn out. There are multiple churches involved in this ordeal. Multiple churches. And there are multiple elders involved in this ordeal. And basically, when I look back, my issues at the previous church and my issues at Oak Ridge, so my problems at Providence Reformed Baptist Church and my problems at Oak Ridge Community Church, they're tied together. They involve many overlapping relationships. They're sister churches. And so what I've sought to do is I've contacted FIRE, which is the association in which Oak Ridge is a part of. And I was seeking to gain some ears by this communication, an email, communication, messages. Towards the end, that they would help us reconcile, help us correct the wrong that has been done against me and my wife. That fell upon deaf ears. In fact, I was called names by Brian Borgman, who is the head of FIRE, or one of the leaders of FIRE. He called me, he said that I was a fool for seeking reconciliation, a fool for even being, expressing my hurt and calling out the wrong that has been done, the sin that has been committed against me and my wife. Didn't want to listen to really my side, my perspective, my story. Didn't really want anything to do with bringing reconciliation, being a mediator. You think to yourself, pastors should want to mediate because they should want to see brothers reconcile to one another. But you know what? He basically blocked me. He did block me. He blocked me because I was calling him out about his hesitancy of getting to know the situation, getting to understand. It was pretty clear to me that he wanted nothing to do with it. And I would interpret that as there's this situation. Again, we are selfish people. What is the best for FIRE? Well, the best thing for FIRE and the best thing for pastors who are friends of one another is to keep each other in good standing. That's the best thing. And we will make lies and we will neglect facts and truths. We will neglect a lot to preserve that. And I believe that Brian Borgman and FIRE has done that. Seth is a member at CBTS, or he was a student at CBTS, Covenant Baptist Reform, CBTS, Covenant Baptist Theological Seminary, Owensboro, Kentucky, a Reformed Baptist seminary. I contacted Sam Waldron. I contacted Rex Simrod. They didn't want anything to do with it. A lot of things happened. I contacted my previous church. I contacted many who were involved in this great big ordeal. A lot of sin was committed, and to say the least, I think you get my point, a lot of sin was covered up. And that's just my testimony. But I do have the emails and the words to back that all up. I sent extensive emails to both churches that I was a part of, and I left no stone unturned. I really made things clear as to what was going on and why, and how what I'm saying is relevant and why, and evidencing every bit of statement that I was writing down for them to see and to read. Out of all those people, probably over 100 people, how many people responded? Really none. Again, why? Because we all are creatures of comfort. And we all, even though we know the evidence is provided for us, sometimes we're going to make the selfish decision out of not factual, logical decision making, but out of emotions. And that's to sum it up. What I've learned is that we are emotional people. Each and every one of us. We will protect what we want to protect, even if we are wrong. And that's illogical. But that is man, that is human. And that's what I've seen. I've contacted a lot of people. I've written a lot of detailed emails uncovering the truth that has been hidden in both churches, Providence Reformed Baptist Church and Oak Ridge Community Church, for so long. And in these emails, I've included many, many pastors, many, many big pastors, many, many well-known pastors within the Reformed Baptist Church. Dave Chansky, Sam Waldron, some pretty big names. How many of them really wanted to talk to me? None. I emailed Dave Chansky about something he wrote to me a while back. The counsel he gave me and how to confront Steve Nutter about sin. And in essence, he told me, don't follow Matthew 18. And I went back to him and I asked him about that. And I confronted him. And at the end of the day, what he told me was, you know, I don't want to talk to you. Get your pastor. I'll talk to your pastor, but I won't talk to you. He treated me like I was a 13-year-old child, not a 40-year-old man. But that is the harsh reality, is we're selfish. We're prideful. We want to protect what we have. And really, at the end of the day, the biggest lesson for me is, who do I want to be? What kind of Christian do I want to be? Do I want to be a Christian that lets emotions cloud my God-informed conscience? Or do I want to be someone who is going to be as consistent as possible when evaluating each and every situation in life? And I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect at all. Emotions still get a part of me. The better of me. Anger, sadness, disappointment, bitterness. It all still happens. But what God has really taught me most importantly, which I hope it'll be encouragement to everyone else, everyone who's listening, maybe few. I just hope that we can strive to be close to God. That we can make it our greatest effort to be with Him and to be close to Him and to be near to Him on a daily basis. We need to be in prayer. We need to be in His Word. We need to be thinking about Him. We need to be listening to hymns and singing hymns and worshiping Him more than anything else. More than anything else that we would desire to do, that needs to be the most consistent part of our lives. So instead of listening to secular music, first and foremost, I will try every day to fill my heart, to fill my mind, to fill my soul with Christian music, religious music, And lately, I've gone back to the hymns. And I've enjoyed the contemporary for a little bit, but the hymns are just so deep and so rich. There's something different about it that fills my soul up. And I think it's just more biblical. I think it's just more biblical, period. Generally speaking. Try to listen to a lot of sermons. Try to read the Bible, God's Word, every day. Try to pray every day. And I don't do it perfectly, and I don't do it well. But, you know, what gives me comfort is that God has not taken away that desire. And that's how He's proven to me, to my own conscience, that I am His, because I still struggle and I still strive. At the point in which I stop striving, that means, in my own opinion, I've lost the faith. And I continue to learn, and I continue to battle. And it is a long battle. It is a hard battle. But that's to me the most important lesson. And it's most important, it's relevant to everything else that I've stated. Because at the end of the day, I would choose my own self apart from righteousness, from truth, if not for the grace of God. And that's my prayer to these elders at Oak Ridge, at Providence, all these members at both churches who I know and I love, all these other pastors, leaders of the church who know about the situation. My hope is that they would truly do the same. That God would so take a hold of them that they would not be able to sleep knowing that this brother and this brother are in conflict and they are unreconciled. Who cares about even what the truth is? Do you even care enough to seek the truth? And then when you seek the truth, that would even be, to me, progress. Because the fact that no one wants to seek truth, to me, is sad, because that means you just don't care. And you use other things as an excuse not to care. The expectation is so low for the church right now, in my opinion, for all those involved. I'm even just thirsting for someone to care, to truly care, to truly want to see reconciliation. I've gone to a couple churches, a few churches, and I've met with a couple of the pastors, and I've told them whatever they wanted to hear. I let them ask whatever question. And you know what I found? They're scared to ask. They don't want to know the truth, because the truth is scary. And at the end of the day, no one wanted to investigate further and bring reconciliation, because that would mean getting involved. And when you're getting involved, that would mean really knowing what the facts are. And if you know the facts, and the facts are all laid out there for anyone to see, you know that you're going to ultimately have to choose right or wrong. And sometimes choosing right is going to be tough. It might be having to side with this guy who's excommunicated. And no one wants to be in that situation. No one that I know, no one that I've met. And I've done my due diligence in trying to seek out a church. The reality is that I've been to many churches since I've been excommunicated. And there are certain people that I've talked to who I felt were worthwhile to see if they would be willing to even listen. Because if they're willing to listen, that might show me something different. That might actually show me that they truly care. And at the end of the day, one of the pastors I talked to, he said, you know what, at the end of the first meeting, he was excited to meet with me. He said, we should meet within the next couple of weeks. Well, things happen, kids get sick, I don't see him for a few weeks. I text him, say, are you still interested in meeting? I still want to meet. I still want to hear about how God's working in your life and the life of the church. And he texts me back, oh yeah, the next time I can meet is in 2 months. And I'm thinking to myself, 2 months? Like, you're so busy that you can't even wake up early one day out of the week to meet with me in the next 4 weeks? It's not my expectation that anyone would, take their time right away, make time for me. But, is a pastor's life so busy, they couldn't afford to wake up at 6 or 7 a.m. to meet 1 hour with a guy who wants to meet with them? And, I just said, okay, well, hopefully we'll talk soon. And, the pastor never responded back to me, never checked up with me. So that was kind of just more evidence to me to say, he really didn't want to get into it. Because I think when he left that meeting, he counted the cost. And he realized that cost was great. And I don't think he was willing to take that step, to be in the crosshairs of potential people. So I am without a church still. I don't know where God is taking me in terms of church. I believe that God has given me a church, and I don't know where that church is. And I've tried to find a church, but I don't think there are many men willing to talk turkey, to speak truth, to get into it. And in many ways, I can't blame them. I'm not going to be bitter and upset because that's what people are. Again, in many ways, I am that same way. And I'm not going to sit here and cry over it. And just forsake the church because no one wants me. I think there's a church there that's willing to take me in and my family, and there's a pastor there that at some point will hopefully show himself to be one who really is able to see above and beyond all the politics of being in a church. That's what politics is. Politics at the end of the day is playing games to live a certain way, to reach a certain height, to succeed in various areas. And there's a lot of politics being played. And so that is what it is, and that's where we're at. I'm done with looking. I think at this point in my life, in this stage of my life, life is very busy. And instead of doing what I've been doing, looking, I've decided just to pray more. And to pray more specifically that God will find me a church and that he will present that church when he sees fit. If you're doing something and it's not working, well, then sometimes that's just God saying, you know what, it's going to take time and you need to be patient and you need to trust in me. And sometimes you just need to stop what you're doing and let God take his time, whatever time he sees fit, to see his will unfold. And it doesn't happen as fast as you want it to, but I think that's just the way God works. So many times in my life have I tried to force the issue when God is saying, take time. And many times it's backfired on me. And that's one of the things I've just got to do better, is to let God's will take its course. And when God sees fit, he will bring that church to me. And probably when I least expect it. And so, after 9 months since releasing the Bully Pulpit series, God has taught me a lot. He continues to teach me. And he's grown me in patience and love and understanding and compassion, even in greater ways. But it's not without pain and suffering. It's not without difficulty. And I still have challenges. Challenges that need to be addressed and need to be worked on. It's funny that when you reach a certain point in life, when, I'll just rightly say for myself, I've gotten over not having a church. I've gotten over being excommunicated. It doesn't bother me. It's my state in life right now. I still want reconciliation. I still have pursued reconciliation, in many ways, and consistently. But, I'm finding other challenges in other parts of my life, in my spiritual walk with God. And it's a constant battle. You get over this, well, this pops up. And that's exactly what's happened with me. But God continues to work, and he's faithful. And that's the great thing about it. He has never left me. He's only been there the whole time, even though it's felt like he's left me for different seasons and for long periods of time. But he is faithful, even when we're not. And that is what I've learned, really, in a nutshell. I want to keep this to 40 minutes. So I'm still without a church. I've gone to several churches. But when people find out why I've left the previous churches, the reality is that they're very turned off by it. And I'm a man who carries a lot of baggage. And the reality is just that most people don't want to deal with it. Christians, we're talking about. I don't think that's loving. I don't think that's kind. I don't think that's compassionate, but that's what it is. But there are people in my life that have shown themselves to be above that. And so I'm thankful for that. It just so happens to be far and few between. And so I've contacted the churches. I've contacted the elders. Written texts, written emails. At the end of the day, the men who hurt me most are the men who have had the most to gain. Nick Matei, now a pastor. Steve Nutter, still a pastor. Probably retiring soon. Randy Smith, still a pastor. Chris Jones, now a pastor. Seth and Grant and Lauren, still pastors, still preaching. And as I said earlier, hearts will either harden over time or they'll soften. And the observation is that hearts haven't softened on the other side. In fact, the truth has only made those hearts harder. And it makes those hearts harder because you're giving yourself into lies. You're lying to yourself. And you're lying to others. See, when you have facts placed right in front of you, you have one story and the other story, and you see that one story is filled with facts and the other story isn't. In order to believe the story that doesn't have the facts, you have to lie to yourself. And when you lie to yourself, you will inevitably have to lie to others. Does that draw one closer to God? Or does that draw one further from God? And that's a dangerous place to be. And it is not my heart to see these people punished. It is not my heart to see these people suffer for the wrong that they've committed. But it is my heart to see them reconciled to God, repent of their sins, and to see us reconciled together. And I'm not speaking of salvation. I'm just speaking of we sin, we ask God for forgiveness. We are reconciled to Him. When you sin against your brother for so long and so obviously, so strongly, we're not reconciled to God until we can come to Him and ask God for forgiveness. When your conscience is telling you that you're wrong and you refuse to reconcile either way and confess your sin, is that truly a reconciled heart to God? And I think there's many things at play, but I think that's why all these issues persist. Is you can do the things of religion, but where's your heart at? What do your actions and your behaviors reflect? What do your works reflect in its totality? If your brother is hurting and you push him away and you kick him out, you can preach all you want, but your action says your heart's not right. How many times should we forgive our brother if he sins against us and he repents of his sins? 70 times, 7 times. Infinitely. So long as he's repenting of his sin. Genuinely coming to you and asking you for forgiveness. You should forgive. That's the type of love and compassion we are to have. But that's not the type of love and compassion I feel. And that's because I do think time has hardened hearts. Because time has revealed more clearly motives and actions. And it's all there for anyone to see. But my heart's desire is for reconciliation, for unity. And I'm praying to that end. And the Lord is taking me on a different path. Maybe we'll talk about that sometime. But, I've never understood why people aren't at church more often and why people have such an issue with the church. But I can understand it much, much better now. And while I don't think that, I think that there are some people who just simply make it too hard. I do think that a lot of people who have these same complaints are speaking from truth, speaking from reality, speaking from experience. And there's enough truth there to say the church has got a problem. And it's a big problem. It's a big problem. And judgment first comes with the church. Like, we really need to assess ourselves every single day. If we are to stay close to God, and if we are not to lie to ourselves and lie to others, if we are going to seek to be true and not double-minded, honest and not liars, meek and humble and not angry and bitter. Like, we need God every single day. And the only time we struggle is when we're not near God. When we choose ourselves over God. When we are selfish, when we are prideful. And we're unwilling to listen to the voice of God speaking to us ever so clearly. And so, brethren, the only person you can control is yourself. You can't control others. You can't convince others. You can't force others to do what you want them to do. Do I want to have my excommunication lifted? For sure. Do I want reconciliation? For sure. Do I want truth to come out and for people to believe truth? For sure. Do I want to see hearts changed from this? Lessons learned? Yes. But it's not me that can do it. It's only God. Only God. And therefore, at the end of the day, I can't worry about what anyone else is doing or not doing or thinking or not thinking. I used to be so consumed by that. Drove myself crazy. That only led to greater bitterness and hardship. And now I've learned the only thing you can control is yourself. Truly. Your words don't need to be extensive. They don't need to be longer than they need to be. You can be concise and fully trust that if the person is going to hear, they will hear. You don't need to present Present every single shred of evidence multiple times over and over. Present it once. Let it be there. Someone who wants to read it will read it. Someone who wants to believe you will believe it. It's not your issue. I'm at peace. God will have what he wants done. His will take its course. And I need to be completely content with that. And at the end of the day, I don't want others to experience what I've experienced. And I don't want to be on the other side doing what has been done to me. And if I am to do that successfully, then God has to be ever close to me. Because apart from the grace of God, there I go. All glory, praise, and honor goes to God alone. He is what makes me understand. He is what helps me to make sense of this situation. No glory goes to Hoochie. No glory goes to anybody else. Whatever I've said, which is true and powerful to your heart, that's not Hoochie saying it. That's not my credit. That is all God, all his credit. I don't want any part of receiving any praise or adoration. It all goes to God. Well, I hope you found this beneficial. I hope you found it interesting. Just a quick update. Maybe I'll come back a little bit more. If you want to, please comment on whether you like my hair longer or shorter. Got a buzz cut. Wife cut it. Looks pretty decent from this angle. Nice little fade. Taught her myself. And she does well. So I'm very happy and content. Saving a lot of money. But sorry. Haven't really been wanting to put a lot of new videos on. Just kind of been busy with life. Hopefully this brought a blessing and encouragement to your day. Bye-bye.